Hello and welcome back to the official Haters Euro 2024 Daily Show. Oh, it's always really hard to say that. The Euro 2024 Daily Show. I'm your host, Aaron Goldstein, and today I'm joined by two members of the Centre Spot podcast, Freddie Walker and Cameron Lee. I'm really sorry we did have to push this show back an hour today as Freddie was still wiping away the tears from last night's Scotland heartbreak. As per usual, we have exclusive training clips, interviews, and reports from our team on the ground in Germany. But let's get right on with the show. Freddie, sum up your feelings for me right now.
There's a lot of negative feelings right now, some disappointment in there, some frustration, some anger, some devastation, and a big feeling of injustice. Thank you to the referee for that one.
Cam, do you think it would have been nice to see Scotland go through?
I think it would have been. Look, I'm a Brit more than anything else. I might be supporting England for this tournament, but I always like seeing the teams from the British and Irish Isles do well. And, you know, to see Scotland go out in 12 group stages in international tournaments in a row, look, I'm gutted.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not as gutted as Freddie, but I am disappointed too.
Rub it in, Cam. Why not?
You say you're a Brit. Team GB, would that be a good team?
I mean, yeah, I always like this thought experiment. When we hosted the Olympic Games in 2012 and we actually got to do that together with Gareth Bale playing for us, I think. I definitely think they would have won more than what we've done separated.
Could do with Andy Robertson at left back for Team GB for sure.
Literally.
Sure. Absolutely.
Look, the big talking point, of course, was the penalty decision. Do you have any understanding as to why that wasn't given?
I honestly can't understand how that isn't a penalty in any world. The only excuse I can think of is that the man on VAR went for a toilet break or something, because I don't understand if the referee doesn't give it, how VAR don't look at that and say, okay, you should probably have a look at it. It's clumsy from the defender. He clearly knees Armstrong in the back of the leg and then gets rugby tackled. When you see it full speed as well, it just looks like the clearest penalty of all time. So yeah, that's a really harsh decision to go against Scotland and would have obviously been a very important decision, a very important part of the game.
For sure. I think I can get what you're saying when we're talking about the sort of the clumsy nature of the tackle. I also think when I watched it on the replay, I actually think maybe you give credit to the Hungarian defender in the way he sort of brought him down there. He very made it look like a collision. And you know, that's accidental. I think if I'm the referee on the pitch in that moment, I'd probably give it, but I think it's fair to say it was a soft penalty. And if they're not given, if they're not given in the moment, Fred, then they're very unlikely to get overturned.
No, I'm not happy with it being soft. I think it's a stonewaller.
I'm keen to hear what the Scotland manager thought. Steve, what do you think?
Somebody somewhere has to explain to me why that's not a penalty. It's 100%. And like I said, it's a one-goal game. We get the penalty. Can be a different night. I've got other words, but I'm not going to use them. In competition, might have been better to have a European referee. But we had European VAR, and maybe the referee didn't see the challenge clearly on the pitch. So what's the purpose of VAR if they're not going to come in on something like that? It was a penalty.
Not sure Steve Clarke agrees with you, Cam.
I think you're right there, mate.
But speaking of the big decisions, have you liked semi-automated offsides? Do you like to see that in the Prem next season?
Yeah, I love it. As a whole, VAR in this tournament has been good,
except for when the English people are involved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that one controversial one with the Netherlands, but obviously last night as well, that was an awful decision. But yeah, the semi-automated situation is coming to the Premier League next year, I believe, and it just speeds that VAR decision making up so much. That,
but again,
yeah.
I think what we're seeing here is it's not about if you have the systems in place such as VAR and semi-automated offside. It's about who's using it, who's utilising it. And if we've seen at this tournament, the only issue that's come from it is when there's English referees using it. I don't think it's the most exciting thing in the world that's coming to the Premier League. So it's hopefully there's better systems in place, and Howard Webb is able to make sure it's implemented properly.
Freddie, can I ask you a question? How can a team be so strong in qualification, beating the likes of Spain, and then get to the big stage, the international tournament, and just be so rubbish?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one with Scotland. I was speaking to my dad about it, and it shows the fragility of the football world, that obviously if that decision goes Scotland's way, everyone's talking of Steve Clarke as a national hero. He's got Scotland through to the knockout rounds today. First time in their history. What a man, what a legend. And now there's talk of he needs to be sacked, get him out, bring in David Moyes. So it's a tough one because Scotland did well against Switzerland. They got the draw. Switzerland have gone and drawn to Germany and beaten Hungary comfortably. I don't think they were horrendous against Hungary. They maybe played it way too safe and he should have made changes earlier. But I don't think they were horrendous. Obviously against Germany, we got absolutely destroyed. But I think it's maybe somewhat unfair to say that Scotland were horrendous. But yeah, it was a tough game to take.
Welcome to the world of football.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a cutthroat business. And look, if you look at it, I get what you're saying there, Fred. He was, a penalty away from, completely repainting himself at this tournament. But Scotland won their first 5 Euro qualifiers. And then in the last 12 months, they've won 1 out of 12, only beating Gibraltar. So their form has definitely dropped off. They peaked at the completely wrong time. And I feel like, failure, you can't reward failure, no matter how unfair it is. I definitely think David Moyes would be a very exciting signing for Scotland for sure.
2 quick things to say. Number 1, please do get your comments in and we will get through to them later on in the show. Number 2, please remember to download SofaScore. The link is in the description. The QR code is in the top left. And while I'm talking about that, that is one other thought. Cam is a Spurs fan, so any nonsense that comes out of his mouth, we do apologise in advance. After the match, Hungary manager Marco Rossi explained to the media that he was relieved to finally get a win on the big stage.
I don't think I've ever taken anything for granted or ever banked on anything. This is my second European Championship, and because of my age, I'm 59 years of age. I might not necessarily take charge of another one, but I'm delighted to have got my first win at this competition because I've only actually been on the receiving end thus far. 2 draws, 1 win and 3 defeats. It's not a great record, great haul, but given the win came tonight, I'm delighted.
59 years of age. He's acting like he's going somewhere tomorrow.
To be fair, he looks about 69. So, I don't know what they're doing out in Hungary. But,
I think we'll see him at the next World Cup at least.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
We, of course, do hope that Barnabas Varga is okay. That looked really, really frightening. And the thing that really annoyed me was the medics team just dawdling onto the pitch. What were they doing?
Yeah, it was very strange. And thankfully, Szoboszlai came and hurried them up, chased after them and brought the stretcher over pretty much himself to help his teammate. But yeah, it looked pretty scary. But
do you think it's because maybe 3 players went down at the same time? There was 2 Scotland players and maybe there was a bit of confusion there. But still, the way that the players reacted straight away, you would have thought a sprint maybe would have been the better option. Personally.
We did hear from Hungary's Roland Szalai on the injury-ish.
Was a terrible incident. Of course, we were fighting for him in the remaining 15-20 minutes, and we would have liked to win for him, and we're very happy we could achieve that. And yes, this we dedicated to him.
What a performance from Roland Szalai. He did get the assist right at the death, Freddie.
yeah, he did. Broke away against Scotland. Ended up having Kenny McLean at left back, which was an interesting experiment. I didn't think I'd see, but yeah, he had 90 minutes played, 1 assist, shots on target was 3, key passes 2. Jules 1, 13. Wow, that's 1, 8, but 13 Jules 13, yeah. Total. Accurate passes 16 from 19, and a SofaScore rating of 7.9. So a very, very strong performance from him. It was obviously a sucker punch the way that they broke up and got that goal against Scotland right at the end of the game. But yeah, it was a very good pass and a nicely created goal.
Yeah, we heard from Szalai speaking about the victory at full time.
Goal. What was your first thought? Well, it's undescribable, especially scoring in the so late in the 100th minute. It's a fantastic feeling, but not only for me, but for the whole team and for the staff, the fans included. So we are very happy it unfolded like that, and we are hopeful. In terms of the other games, we hope they're going to be favorable for us.
Is there a more gutting way to go out of a tournament than that?
I personally struggle to think of one. I think it really highlights how fantastic the group stages are in these international tournaments, that you get that kind of jeopardy. A draw wasn't good enough for both teams. They both had to go for it. And fine, maybe the first 80 minutes of last night wasn't the most exciting game in the world. But that final 10 minutes, the way they're going back and forth each other, I just thought was absolutely fantastic.
It was complete mayhem in that last 10 to 15 minutes. Just both teams going all out attack and it just being chance after chance at one of the ends. Scotland fans think they've got it. And yeah, it was an interesting way to go out. Probably the most devastating I've definitely had supporting a team. But yeah, it was tough.
You know what made no sense to me? Scotland, okay, if they score, they're through 100%.
Yeah.
But if they held on, there was also a chance they could go through by coming third. So they had one player back for that counter-attack. Yeah. And it's left himself open.
Yeah, it's a very slim chance with 2 points to get it.
I wouldn't have banked on relying on the draw, I think. Yeah. I think, you know what, like, the only thing Scotland didn't do last night was score a goal. And I think the fact that they conceded one, I don't think it ultimately made too much of a difference.
I believe you need Croatia and Albania both to lose today, and then you would need Turkey and Czech Republic to lose their next games as well, because Scotland will currently be sitting in that fourth place.
And also with your goal difference after
qualifier.
the Germany game too, it's just, I think it's asking for way too much.
Yeah, it would have been tough.
Yesterday's other match saw Germany face a stern test, 1-1 draw against Switzerland. And it really looked like the Swiss were going to cause an upset for a large part of that game. Cameron, what did you think of the game?
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic game. The Swiss defended resolutely. Don't get me wrong, Germany definitely dominated the affair. But the way that the Swiss held on and they defended, and then when they got their opportunity, it was a beautiful team goal. I don't know if you've seen the highlights or watched the game. I know you were probably preoccupied, Fred. And yeah, no, I'd have to say, just kind of, I'm really getting on the Swiss train actually at the moment. I think the way that they managed to sort of overcome France in the last Euros through penalties, I think they've really got sort of a bit of a seal about them. And I think that was really highlighted last night. And they probably arguably maybe should have topped the group if it wasn't for a last minute sort of equaliser from a Germany team at home. Got the fans behind them too. Gives you that extra 5%. So yeah, a really good game. Really enjoyed it. And look, the thing is about Germany, when you've got players like Musiala, Toni Kroos, you're going to normally find a way out of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, Toni Kroos is a hell of a player. I think so. Score provider us with his stats from last night: 90 minutes played, touches 127, key passes 4, accurate passes 98 from 106, 92%. Accurate long balls 4 out of 5, duels 1, 5 out of 6, and a SofaScore rating of 8.2. So an amazing performance from the man in the midfield for Germany. What a legend he is. We know, obviously, he's won 6 different Champions League with two different clubs, 1 at Bayern, 5 at Real Madrid. Was instrumental in their World Cup win back in 2014 as well. So, we'll see if he can go out with a bang from international football and take Germany all the way this time.
Speaking of world-class midfielders, we heard from yesterday's man of the match. You guessed it, Granit Xhaka.
Fan of numbers. I'm not a big fan of individual trophies, let's say that. For sure, makes me happy. I will not lie about this, but much more makes me happy to see the team, how they work, how we are pushing each other, on which level that we are playing at the moment. If you see us 6 months ago, we was not nearly there where we are today.
Hypothetical question for you both here. Bayer Leverkusen win the Europa League. Does Granit Xhaka have a shout for the Ballon d'Or if Switzerland had a bit of a Euros run as well?
I think for Granit Xhaka to win the Ballon d'Or, Switzerland had to win the Euros, I think is the level, and maybe have an unbelievable start to the next season too. I just think there's a bit of bias with the Ballon d'Or. They don't give it to players like Granit Xhaka, unfortunately. It's more that sort of attacking, flary player. But I think if they go and do well in the Euros, I think you have to put them in the conversation, don't you?
I mean, yeah, if they won the Euros, then maybe I'd accept that Granit Xhaka would be up there. But I personally don't think that's going to happen. I'm still offended that you just put him in the same conversation as Toni Kroos, to be honest. So, yeah, I don't think Xhaka will be winning the Ballon d'Or this year.
We heard from Germany manager Julian Nagelsmann after the game, who spoke about the importance of having a strong bench.
And decide games or shoot an equalizer. It's important for the knockout stage, but also for the group stage as well, as you've seen today. We prepare the opponents, we create a plan, we try to give the players the special spaces. After that, we need players from the bench who can come in and are kind of different to the players who begin the game. So we did it like that today, and
Imagine if things aren't going well for you, you can just bring on Füllkrug. Do Germany have the best squad at the tournament?
Not for me. I'm going to back Portugal just because of their attacking options, to be honest. They've got so many young, vibrant players in that attack that I think makes them the strongest squad.
They're definitely up there. I still think they're at the beginning of a sort of cycle for them. And for me, it's got to be the French in terms of if I could take any squad. I just think they've got so many options just all over the pitch. It feels a bit unfair, to be honest with you.
Gareth Southgate's fuming at you now that you didn't say England. Freddie, have we got any comments coming through?
Yeah, so we've had NI say, good to have you back. Good to be back. We've had George say, who's been your player of the tournament so far? Who do you guys put down as that? I would have said until last night, Jamal Musiala had a good shout for Germany, which we actually called before the tournament started that he might be in that conversation.
I think it's really hard because only a few teams have played 3 matches.
Yeah.
And the others on 2. So you'd have to go for a German player based off the fact that they've played 3 and that they've performed the best.
Yeah, Tony Cruz.
Or a Swiss, to be honest, because
that would be fair. I mean, I personally, the thing, I don't know why, but I've been very impressed by, I think this could be, this could be the tournament where Ronaldo makes his comeback. I mean, in terms of, in terms of that sort of real sort of throwing himself onto the main stage, I think the way he's there's something a bit different about him. I feel he's gone away to Saudi Arabia for a season. Everyone's kind of forgotten about him a little bit. I feel like this is the tournament where he reminds us. So I'd say keep an eye out for CR7 if you weren't already.
I love Ronaldo, but do you know what? The more I think about that, and not just because I think it, but also because I really just want to annoy Freddie. Granit Xhaka. I think he's been the player of the tournament so far. Realistically,
he's definitely going to be in with a shout for sure.
Yeah. So Group A is over. Germany are top, Switzerland second, and we'll have to wait and see whether Hungary may advance to the next round. Do you think it's possible, boys, Freddie?
Hungary, yeah, I think they probably will. So they will unless Albania beats Spain and Croatia beat Italy. They will be through, I think. So.
On to today. The group of death concludes tonight, and there are a few possibilities for qualification. SofaScore have given us how the table's looking. Freddie, can you run me through this? Because, oh my goodness, it's complicated.
Yeah. So apologies. When I was referring to Hungary, with them on 3 points, if Albania and Croatia both win their games here, then they're obviously going to knock Hungary down a peg here. And then Hungary are more at threat of going out. But yeah, Spain and Italy. Spain obviously confirmed as topping the group. Because they've beaten Italy. Even if Italy win that, Spain will go ahead of them on head-to-head. Then Albania and Croatia, they need to win these games tonight. It's going to be tough, but I guess they can do it. I fancy Croatia to get something against Italy, to be honest, but we'll come on to that, I'm sure.
Let's start with the somewhat less interesting game in Spain versus Albania. Spain have already topped the group, and it's quite likely that they're going to shuffle their team around. Are there any players that you'd like to see today that we haven't seen much of or at all already, Cam?
Yeah, for me, it's got to be Hosselu. I don't think he started or played any games so far this tournament. And I'm just kind of blown away by this guy's journey. Obviously started out at Stoke, what he's got up to since he left the Bet365 or Britannia. Wasn't sure what it was when he left. So yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing what he can bring to the Spain team.
I'm looking for, I'd like to see David Raya as an Arsenal fan. I'd like to see him get that starting goal. But I'm not sure he will.
Personally, I just want to see Oyarzabal because I've captained him on fantasy. Like pure and utter gamble that he's going to play. Everybody at the moment is talking about Lamine Yamal. The Spain boss was asked whether he could be the next Lionel Messi.
I don't compare players. I wouldn't compare Lamine Yamal with anyone else. You've just mentioned Leo Messi. But I think the best thing for him is to stay calm, work hard in the way that he's been doing. I read some quotes the other day that I really liked about how important it is to be a good person in football. I love that message. He's a young person with the world ahead of him and his life ahead of him, so he can keep improving.
Lamine Yamal, as everybody knows, is 16 years old. So he has got a long career ahead of him. But are we ever going to see a player win 7 Ballon d'Ors? Cam, what do you think?
I personally think what we've seen over the last decade or so, 15 years maybe, with the dominance of 2 players winning the Ballon d'Or, I think that was maybe an era, a phase. I think we're going to, about the next sort of 20 years, we'll see what it was like kind of before that, the Messi Ronaldos of the world, where it's sort of more spread out, more maybe a player has a really good season and they'll pick it up. I don't think there's a player alive at the moment, I don't think there will be for another 20, 30, 40 years potentially, that will ever win the amount of Ballon d'Ors that we've seen won by 2 players.
I'm inclined to agree, but I would say that Mbappe has just joined Real Madrid, and it's not impossible that he puts together a streak of just winning Ballon d'Or after Ballon d'Or.
I can see him getting maybe 3 or 4, but he's already 25.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And just
to win 7 in a row, more or less, it's a tough.
It would be tough.
What's the most? Of course. So I might be catching someone out of it. How many did Messi or Ronaldo win in a row? Was it 2 or 3 they managed to get? Or
definitely 3, but I'd go on 4. I think.
Was it 4?
We will. I'm actually going to search that up.
That just feels even for Mbappe, it feels tough to do.
For sure.
Now, one man I would like to see, and I think we could see today, is Jesus Navas, the only man remaining from the World Cup victory 14 years ago. He actually played in that final 14 years ago. He came on after 60 minutes and played till the end of extra time. Am I the only one that forgets that he played for Manchester City? Look at his stats for Spain. 53 matches, 5 goals, 11 assists. It is kind of crazy because he's been around forever, but he hasn't played that many games. And I feel like that's one of the reasons you kind of forget that he had a little stint in England. Do you remember him here at all, Fred?
Not particularly. I remember him getting some good assists for Man City. But yeah, no, that's the dodgy era of City, in my opinion. That I think some dodgy stuff was going on.
Yeah, I mean, I can believe he was actually he made it to the squad. How old is he? Like 38 at this point, something like 37, 38. So I mean, and his main attribute was his pace was one thing I remember. So you'd assume that might have worn off a little bit. So yeah, not too many sort of major memories of his time in the Premier League, I have to say.
You know, he is the only player to win the World Cup, the Euros, and the Nations League.
Wow.
Even with a makeshift Spain team, you'd expect them to get the job done tonight, surely.
Yeah, I would, but they are obviously going to make a lot of changes, and Albania have everything to play for. Obviously, it could get them through to the knockout rounds, and they've looked good in the tournament so far. They took Italy close, obviously drew to Croatia, so I wouldn't be surprised if Albania puts together a really good performance here.
No, I'm completely with you. I think I really rate the Spanish side, and I've said it from the beginning. I think it's going to be a Spain versus England final. And I think the Spanish are going to do us, unfortunately. That's my kind of shout. I've been saying that for months. I just think, I don't know, I just look at the Spain team and I just think that they're sort of, the way they've been playing in the opening games too, sort of a bit more confident, a bit more style to them than maybe the other major nations have. And yeah, I think they've got to keep an eye out for them.
Get in the comments if you agree with Cam or if you think he's an idiot. We are excited to hear whichever one you think. Spain have only won the opening 3 games of the Euros once before. They did do it in 2008, and they went on to win it. Wow. Can I have your score prediction tonight, please?
Yeah, I'm going to go for 2-1 Spain.
I'm going to go for 3-0 Spain. Ooh. Another 3-0.
Wow. I'm actually going to agree with you. I'm going 3-0 Spain as well.
Wow. So looking more smart than stupid then.
At the same time, we watch on as the reigning champions Italy take on a Croatia side who have been largely disappointing. What's gone wrong for Croatia?
Yeah, I think defensively they have not been as solid as they have been in previous tournaments, and also offensively they haven't been great. They had the that kind of 5-minute period against Albania where they got the 2 goals, but other than that, they haven't looked that threatening across the game. So yeah, I haven't been massively impressed with them so far.
I think it's just purely down to the aging nature of their squad. But funnily enough, people were saying that in 2018 and they got to a final. People were also saying that in 2022 at the World Cup. And again, they got to a semi. So I think this is finally the tournament where their age has kind of caught up with them, you know, with Rakitic and Modric in the midfield.
Everybody is aware that Euro 2024 is going to be Toni Kroos's last dance. But Mateo Kovacic was asked whether this will be the last time that we see Luka Modric.
Not thinking that this might be Luka Modric's last game in an international tournament. We're happy that he's here with us again this year. We'll show what we can do. We're delighted to have Luka Modric out there with us on the pitch. For the moment, we're entirely focused on Italy. We're not thinking too much about that stuff at the moment.
Okay, boys, I'm going to throw you under the bus here and ask you a horrible question. But I want you to rank these 4 in order. Toni Kroos, Luka Modric, Xavi, and Andres Iniesta. Freddie?
It's a really
Sounded like a bit Freddie at the
tough,
end there.
That's a tough question. I wish I was involved in that. No, I think I'd have to go for Xavi, personally, number 1. The class that he has on the ball, he's just renowned as one of the greatest midfielders of all time. Vision, passing ability. Yeah, I'd have to put him up there. He won 4 Champions Leagues for Barca, international level, 2 Euros, 1 World Cup. So he kind of did it all, Xavi. And then I'd go Iniesta as well. I just love that Barcelona team from that era, kind of growing up. They were 2 of my favorite players. Iniesta getting the obviously winning goal in the World Cup. And then I'm going to go for 2 Real Madrid guys. I'm going to back Kroos over Modric. He won the Champions League at 2 teams. He's obviously won the World Cup. Whilst Luka Modric had a great career internationally, got to a final, didn't win anything, won a Ballon d'Or, yes. But for me, Kroos winning a World Cup and 1 extra Champions League at Bayern Munich puts him above Modric for me.
I think you've just sort of summarised your own hypocrisy there, Fred, with what you've just said there about Luka Modric. Didn't win anything, but he won a Ballon d'Or. He was the best player in the world in an era dominated by 2 of the best players we've ever seen play the game. Yeah. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to I've just done the maths here. every single position I disagree with of what the 4 you've just given. Now I've got Modric number 1, won a Ballon d'Or. Look at what he's done to this Croatia team, a country of 4 million people. I remind all our viewers that Scotland have 5 million people. They've never gone past a group stage at the international tournament. So, and I would say it's very much inspired by Luka. Obviously played for the mighty Tottenham Hotspur in his youth. We really very much formed him, sort of led him to what he's going to be. Don't get me wrong, Xavi and Iniesta, absolutely unbelievable players. And then I want to put Toni Kroos, again, unbelievable player. It's very fine. It's fine margins this, but I'm going to give Luka number 1 spot for me.
So you're going Modric 1.
Modric 1, Xavi, Iniesta. I've gone Xavi over Iniesta because I think his what he's done, sort of management sort of highlights his understanding of the game, I guess. But again, very hard to split. Iniesta 3rd, Kroos 4th.
Okay, I'm actually inclined to almost agree with you.
Wow.
But the answer is Luka Modric first. He's won a Ballon d'Or.
No.
And he's won so many Champions Leagues. You can't put him in the same bracket as the other guys on the international stage in terms of accolades, because he played for Croatia, not Germany and Spain, who had fantastic squads. And Luka Modric spearheaded Croatia to these fantastic achievements of, yes, not winning anything, but there's only a few teams that can win it. I'm going Modric, Iniesta, Xavi, Kroos.
Okay, so we just swap the middle 2 there.
Just the middle 2. I'm swapping. If you disagree with us, please do get in the comments. And if you want to get any stats, if you want to check them, check out SofaScore. Anyway, back to today's games at hand. What has been up with Italy? Is today a battle of who turns up more or who is just less poor?
Yeah, they've been disappointing, Italy. I think offensively they're not that strong. But last Euros I didn't think they were that strong either, and they ended up winning it. They didn't have the best qualifying campaign, Italy either. England were obviously in their group with Ukraine and Italy, the top 3, and Italy were level on points with Ukraine with 14, 6 points behind England in that qualifying group. So they haven't had a great time, and they almost went out to Ukraine with the last game, to be honest. I think Italy have struggled so far, and I wouldn't be surprised if they struggle in this game too.
Look, I think this is kind of how Italy do international tournaments. 1982, 1994, 2006, all tournaments that Italy did very, very well in. But throughout the tournament, people were going, how on earth have they got to a quarterfinal? How have they got to a semi-final? How do they get to the final? How do they win that? So I think with England, with Italy, they always look a little bit lackluster. I think they always take a while to warm up to the tournament. But the thing is, with them, they get the job done. So if they can get a sort of solid win tonight, get that 2nd place, and then you're in the knockout round, it's 4 games till glory. So never write off the Italians, but I'll admit they haven't looked great so far.
In the first game, we saw Croatia take off striker Ante Budimir after just 56 minutes. He then came off the bench against Albania, and they scored twice in just the next less than 10 minutes. Look at his record for Osasuna last season. He played 38 games, of which he started 32, scored 18, got the odd assist. Can you really think of any reason why you take off a striker like that?
The Croatia do have a lot of talent in their team, so I can, but that is obviously a good goal scoring record, and it's a big threat for them that they should start with today, because they haven't looked great attacking wise.
But Cam, when you've got a striker like him, is it just worth keeping him on the pitch even if things aren't exactly going to plan?
It's a tough one. Look, sometimes the thing that instantly, you mentioned earlier, I was a Spurs fan, the thing that instantly comes to mind in terms of switching up the striking options is Fernando Llorente against Ajax in the Champions League semi-final. Just completely changed the game for us. Sometimes you just need to change up things up top and get different results. So I can see where they're coming from, but I do tend to agree with you.
And on the flip side, the man that's leading the line for Italy wasn't exactly Erling Haaland in the Premier League, but Gianluca Scamacca had a very, very good season with Atalanta as they won the Europa League and finished in the top 4. 44 matches, 19 goals, 7 assists. Why didn't it work for him in the Prem? He's an absolute monster.
Yeah, I mean, you see this, don't you, when players come over from abroad and can't quite cut it in the Prem, and then they leave again, and then they're back to what they were before they came. He did get 8 goals for West Ham in his 27 appearances. 5 of them came in the Conference League. So maybe he's a European specialist. He likes to perform on the European stage. West Ham, since 2010, I saw a stat, they've signed over 50 strikers, almost amounting to around 300 million. And very few of those for West Ham have turned out to be any good. So they've only got a handful. Maybe Antonio is one of the best ones that they've had, and he beat Scamacca to the job, really.
I also think, different leagues have different styles, and obviously different players are going to sort of suit those styles. I think, look, how many times has Lukaku gone to the Serie A and managed to convince the Premier League team to sign him for a ridiculous amount of money? I think it's happened more than once. So there's no shame in West Ham sort of buying Scamacca and it not working out from there. Premier League's an extremely tough league. It doesn't always sort of suit a players what they can bring to a team. So no shame in failing in the Premier League. He's a very good player, and I'll keep an eye out for him.
He is a good player, but Scamacca has scored just one goal for Italy. And who did it come against? You guessed it, England. No player scored more than 3 goals for Italy in qualifying. Italy scored the most goals, though, at Euro 2020, with no individual player scoring more than twice. Do you need a target man, or what do you think?
Well, you don't. You've seen it with Arsenal, I guess, this season. I know that international football and club football are pretty different, but obviously Arsenal had a great season in terms of performances, and that was without a big talisman goal scorer. If there's many players around the team that can get goals, then that striker role can essentially be feeding other players to finish the chances.
Freddie, you've got a pretty good record on predictions recently. Can I have your score predictions for tonight, please?
Yeah, I'm going to go a bit crazy on this one. I think Croatia are going to beat Italy. So I'm going to go 2-1 Croatia. There's one last miracle left from this Croatian international team and Luka Modric.
I would love to see that. And I think that would also maybe would Italy be a little bit nervous about that third place then at that point, potentially? It could damage them there. So a lot on the line tonight. I'm going to stick with the Italians. I think it'll be a cagey 1-0 win.
Okay.
Oh, do I have to answer? I don't want to answer. I have no idea. Based on how poor Croatia have been, I think it's really hard to see them clawing it back today. And I'm going to go for an Italy win, 2-0, nice and simple. Blah blah blah.
It's one of those games where it could literally be any result. If I spoke to you tomorrow and we were talking about it, it could literally be 1-0 Croatia, 1-0 Italy. It could literally be anything. So looking forward to it.
I do have some good news, by the way. Luke Shaw is back in training. We have these clips from yesterday afternoon. Freddie, are any comments coming through?
Yes, so we have a comment from Abdullah Farhad saying, will Alexander-Arnold play in the next match? I've heard from David Ornstein recently. He's reporting that Trent won't start and Conor Gallagher will take his place. So it doesn't look like it. And to be honest, I don't know about you boys, but I think that's justified after his 2 performances in the last 2 games.
I don't know, Fred. I'm not inspired by what you just read out there. I think, look, Trent's playing in a new position. He might need a bit of time to adjust. I think, look, England are pretty much assured to go through. The position is now what's up for grabs here. And I think, you know what? Look, we've made the decision. We made the squad kind of with this in mind. I think you've got to stick with it, personally.
Okay. Well, Abdullah's also said that England have the best midfielders. So I'm not sure whether I agree with that, or maybe I'd put Germany, Spain above that in terms of midfielders that we have. I'm not sure Conor Gallagher gets into that bracket with like Rodri, Pedri.
Gallagher, no.
My thing is now, like, okay, look, we're going to see Conor Gallagher tomorrow, as it's been revealed. But the more I think about it, the more you think Jude Bellingham's going to drop deeper next season for Real Madrid. Stick him next to Rice as a midfield 2. Put Cole Palmer or Phil Foden just in front of them, and then you can put either Gordon, Foden on the left. I think this whole Foden not working thing's a load of nonsense. I don't think, because you don't just have a player that doesn't fit the system. If you're that fantastic of a footballer, which Phil Foden is, you will work in any system, particularly an England team where the players around you are fantastic. It's like he's got Harry Kane in front of him, Jude Bellingham to the right, Bukayo Saka on the wing. There's no real excuses for this team not to be performing to the best of their abilities. I don't really care what people say, the system doesn't work. Rubbish. Everybody's been criticising England, including fans, the Haters Euro 2024 Daily Show, and pundits. But Harry Kane was asked about one in particular, Gary Lineker.
I think it's always, I'd never want to be disrespectful to any player, especially, a player who's worn the shirt and knows what it's like to play for England. But of course, I think what maybe ex-players or ex-players who are pundits now have got to realise is that it's very hard not to listen to it now, especially for some players who are not used to it or some players who are new to the environment. So, I always feel like they have a responsibility. I know they've got to be honest and give their opinion, but also they have a responsibility of being an ex-player, an ex-England player that a lot of players looked up to, that, people do care about what they say and people do listen to them. So, like I touched on, everyone's got their opinion, but the bottom line is we haven't won nothing as a nation for a long, long time. And, a lot of these players were part of that as well, and they know how tough it is. So it's not digging anyone out, but it's just the reality that, they do know that it's tough to play in these major tournaments and tough to play for England. But
yes, Harry, it might be tough to play in them, but it's tough for us to watch as you score and then sit back. It is painful. Do you think that will change with Gallagher coming into midfield, or not really?
It didn't really in the last game, did it? When he got subbed on for Trent for that half an hour, yeah, there was really very, very little difference. He just got a yellow card pretty quickly, and then that was the problem.
Look, I wouldn't say, given the last 2 games, I wouldn't say I was excited for tomorrow. More apprehensive, I think would be the word. I'm getting really, the way that sort of Spurs games, I'm sort of that same sort of similar feeling. It's going to be an interesting game. Slovenia, they've impressed me so far this tournament, what they've done. But I think, look, England, the levels that they've set over the past few tournaments, we should be expecting 3-0 par, I would say. Anything less than that. Unless it's a really good performance, and maybe we'll take a 2 or a 1 or 2. But England, we've got to turn up tomorrow, man. We've got to. We have to, surely. Please.
Quick question for you both.
Beg you.
Do either of you remember what happened 12 years ago today, 24th of June, 2012? Something happened at the Euros. I'm going to keep you from guessing and going completely blank.
Fine.
England lost to Italy on penalties. That Andrea Pirlo Panenka. Is that the greatest Euro moment that you can think of?
It's got to be up there. I mean, just the arrogance of it. Like, I think that's honestly, I remember watching that game, and I watched it. I was in Japan at the time. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning when it was on, and because obviously Italy missed the first penalty. I thought, this is it. This is finally going to be the time we win a penalty shootout, and to finish it like that. I mean, honestly, just outrageous. So Italian too, isn't it?
It's definitely not the greatest Euros moment for me, because that's a painful memory. I'm pretty upset you just brought it back into my mind.
The Hungary game last night up there for you then, or?
Oh yeah, that's up there as well. Yeah, it's also awful.
Freddie, let's go back to the poll in the comments. Is anything coming through today?
So no, we haven't had anything extra from the comments. So yeah, all good.
Okay, no worries at all. Well, thank you very much for joining us today on the Haters official daily Euro 2024 show. Please do download SofaScore. It's in the description. It's in the top left corner, and you'd be a mug not to download it. We will see you tomorrow at the new time, the proper time of